So, for a tenacious and persistent attorney, it is not much of a problem to find and bring together 12 borderline personalities and their followers into a jury to win his desired verdict. How and why juries occasionally get it wrong. To illustrate the behavior of a number of individuals interacting with each other within a group, such as what you might see in a deliberation room, I'm going to make reference to the characters in the movie The Wizard of Oz, where you have the wizard and the scarecrow without a brain, the Tin Man without a heart, and the cowardly lion who has no courage. The brainless scarecrow type of a juror has courage, and he does have a heart, so he will be very outraged and disgusted upon learning of the graphic details of what those policemen did to Kelly Thomas when they killed him. But later on, when he enters the deliberation room and is exposed to a torrent of selectively recalled details from the trial, and to other jurors reenacting the altercation in glowing terms for the police, his confidence as to the officer's guilt vacillates, and sympathies take hold, while his empathy for the murder victim fades. And he then aligns himself with the other jurors by selectively recalling trial details that can be said to justify the officer's actions, while discounting or ignoring any contrary evidence. The impressionable yet dogmatic scarecrow doesn't think for himself in life, but rather he relies on others to do that for him. So of course they are the ones who are rehashing the details that were brought up during trial. They are reconstructing the events as they imagine them to have taken place, which more likely conformed to the defense's version of events. And he is just adopting their way of thinking as his own. The enthusiastically obliging scarecrow type of juror has the persona of the noble hero who rushes to the aid of a damsel in distress to kill the murderous fiend who, she maintains, has been her stalker, only to discover, after it is too late, that the alleged stalker was really her estranged husband, on whom she had just acquired a $1 million insurance policy, payable upon his death. This is the type of a juror that a justice-advocating attorney doesn't want on the jury, because he knows that the brainless scarecrow's mile-wide loyalty to justice is only an inch deep. And he knows that false evidence and fallacy will crowd out the truth from the confused scarecrow's head once under the sway of peer pressure and false intellectuals in the deliberation room. Perhaps a failure-prone Atticus Finch-type attorney should hire a gold-digging floozy like the one mentioned previously as a jury consultant, so that she can alert him to any jurors who will be predisposed to mental malleability, so that he can preemptively dismiss the scarecrow juror before he is misled into sympathies with those insidious attorneys at the other end of the courtroom. Or better yet, he should hire cult leaders like Jim Jones or Charles Manson, with their superb powers of insight, to advise him on juror psychology. The Tin Man without a heart type of juror requires little analysis, because he is not concerned that somebody got murdered, and he doesn't care one way or another if the perpetrators are held accountable or not. As likely as not, he just wants to get it over with and go home. Our last type of juror to consider, the cowardly lion, also aligns his views into conformity with those around him, but not for the same reason as the scarecrow or the Tin Man. With chattering teeth and wobbly knees, The Cowardly Lion forecasts danger in every nook and cranny and around every corner, no matter how preposterous his foreboding prophecies of doom might be. He trembles at the majesty of state entities like the police department or the IRS, and he bows to the throne of the majority. He especially dreads the ever-looming prospect of shunning and isolation from the group, or that they might call him names. So, under the duress of peer pressure in the deliberation room, his initial convictions weaken, and he gradually realigns his thinking into a perfect conformity with the collective mindset of the group. He then ignores critical details from the trial that highlight injustices, while selectively recalling obscure facets of the law and irrelevant threads of evidence that validate the group's unreasonable verdict. And in this way, he thus wins the soothing approval from the other jurors that he so desperately craves, while still retaining, at least in his own mind, the outward facade of bravery and courage. But, unfortunately for the Cowardly Lion, the short-term relief he experiences from jumping on the bandwagon and conforming with the prejudicial thinking of the other jurors is countered in the longer term by the nagging anxiety of realizing that he has compromised his integrity. He cannot escape realizing how the facts of the case really fit together, and the truth of where the evidence really leads, because unlike the cold and metallic Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion does have a heart and therefore a conscience, and while he preserves his paper-lined mask of bravery and courage, he is destined to despair over the injustice and suffering that he has contributed to inflicting. So in conclusion, the following are some of the conditions that can lead to a guilty culprit being vindicated and set free, or can contribute to an innocent person being sentenced for a crime he didn't commit, sentenced to life in prison or even the death penalty. There is the wide divergence of experience and expertise of the attorneys on opposing sides of the courtroom, and the availability of jury consultants. And finally, there are the peculiarities of the jurors that are available at a given time to be selected and incorporated into the jury by the clever attorneys.